All right, so welcome back to another episode of Father Figures. I am here with a good friend of mine, Mr. David Mesa. I've known him for quite a long time, and I wanted to bring him on. He's a father, a business owner, a great guy. And David, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, Jake. First off, obviously, nice to see you again, man. It's been a little while. Got to keep up with those cold baths you got going on Facebook, man. Actually, just
You
got a
put one in
sauna.
the new house, didn't you?
We did, but actually, we don't have one yet. But we did just get a sauna, so
Hey,
we've been doing that every day. But
good.
it's a little bit easier to be warmer than cold, so I gotta catch up to you on that one, man.
There you go.
But yeah, so some background here, as Jake, as you said, uh, really going back into a little bit further background. I grew up in Colombia, South America, so a little maybe different kind of story here to wind up in Wisconsin. But in essence, we grew up there till I was about 12 years old. Then we moved to Marshfield, Wisconsin, right around 2001, 2002. Went to school in Green Bay. That's actually where I met my wife Vanessa freshman year, and then started our business in 2011 as financial advisor.
Nice.
Yep. Now
Awesome.
we got three little kids, a dog. We just got done building a house, so full court press, man. At this moment,
And this is house build number two.
house built number two. House built number two.
And I know you said before we started recording that you didn't have much say that you wanted in the house,
You know
but
that old saying of delegation.
yeah,
It was to the nth
takes the
degree.
stress away.
When it came to building the house, man, it was full on delegation to my wife. She did a great job with it. In fact, it's funny. The first time that we built the house, for the electrical part of it, that's a pretty long session, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on what you want to do and where you want all the electricals to be built. And we did
Oh,
it in the middle of winter, and it was freezing. After 2 hours, you're just sitting there, and I had my dress shoes on for work, and Jake,
oh yeah.
the soles of those things are very, very thin. And then for this one, I maybe lasted 15 minutes. And I told her, I just go, Vanessa, love you, have fun. I'll see you in 5 hours. You do your thing. So
Yeah,
again, delegation, man. That was the goal with the house, and she took the ball, she ran, and it came out wonderful.
yeah. And I'm sure there was a lot of thought put into it with the kids, right? So how old are your kids?
Yeah, no doubt, man. So we have again three kids. We got Penelope, who's turning 8 this summer, Luca, who's turning 6 this summer, and then Isabella, who's turning 3 next month. So
Yeah,
you
you
know,
guys aren't busy at all.
yeah, and it's one of those balances, right? Of obviously, they're not going to be here forever, but at the same time, you're doing a lot of this for the family and creating those memories. So
Hmm.
again, having that vision of short term and long term, and what do we want things to look like? Because the location, we were talking about that as well, right? The location is
Hmm.
exactly right by our church, right by our kids' school, acre and a half. So we know this is going to be a place where we're going to be in here for a long, long, long time, God willing. So it is one of those balances of while we have a family, but what do we need it to look like, obviously, as we get older, in that perspective. And like I said, kudos to Vanessa, man. 10 out of 10 in that one.
Whose idea was it to say, hey, we just finally settled into our house that we didn't build that long ago. Let's do another crazy thing in the midst of, I know your business has been ramping up and you've been crazy
Yep.
busy there. Of let's just move all of our shit.
Honestly, 100% me. Anything
Okay.
crazy idea wise,
All right.
that's going to come 100% from me. I can't sit still. It's the next idea, the next thing coming up consistently. She's got to
Mhm.
rein me back, but usually the one driving the car on those crazy ideas is probably me, and then we'll sit down together, and if she feels that she can take that on, then we move forward.
Yeah.
Because she's usually the one doing a lot of the execution of those ideas.
Yeah.
But I got that itch, and anytime I get an itch, I got to explore and dig and see what it looks like. I think that actually applied pretty good to our business as well, right? Anytime you feel like there's something
Mhm.
out there to explore, we have gone out there and explored it. That doesn't mean we do it, but from the idea wise, that usually does come from me, and then we sit down together as a couple and figure out if we want to do it.
Yeah. So those are some things I want to make sure I talk to you about because I know you're a very structured guy, especially in business stuff. You've helped
Yeah.
mentor me over the years, and the structure that you have, I'm assuming goes further than just your business and goes to home life too of making sure that you have structured time with three little kids, spending time with your wife, and maintaining a healthy relationship so the kids watch you guys and want something to like thrive for, right?
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt, man.
It starts so young. They just watch you, don't they?
They do. They do, and it's funny when you're so proud when you see the good things because you're especially when you know that you've taught them that you've led them that way. But especially with my son, I will say that when you see some of the things that he does that are maybe not, I'll just say the correct way, right, or the way
Yep.
that he knows that he should be acting, but then you look in the mirror and you go, that came from me, right? Or I see why.
Yeah.
That's usually pretty. I don't even want to say frustrating. It's more of a good look in the mirror, right? Where you can just wake up a little bit and go, okay, what and whether those are habits that I saw in my father or his father or family members, things like that, or call it genetic kind of things,
Yep.
or actual experiences that they've experienced, man. It's you see it. I mean, you
Yeah.
truly do see it in that capacity, man. But a lot of what we've done in business and family, and for whatever it's worth, is I like exploring things, but anybody that really knows me knows that we're structured, but in such a simple way, man. It
Hmm.
is so simple. I truly believe from our business standpoint, from a personal standpoint, from my wife's and I standpoint, we just layer on brick by brick. That's it.
Hmm.
We know we're building something special. And I think it was Tony Robbins said it in a quick video, maybe like a 30-second video I saw one time. People over appreciate what they can do in essence in 1 year, but they underestimate what they can do in a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And that concept, brick by brick, I genuinely believe that's what's kept our family, our business successful and continue to grow. And we've been challenged before, right? Why not even bigger and bigger goals? And a big part of it, Jake, is because I just know myself. I know what works. I'm not worried about running somebody else's race in that
Hmm.
capacity. You know, I'm good with it. Even as a kid, I understand this is the way I learn. This is the way I want to do it, brick by brick. And it's amazing what happens when you just consistently do the simple things
Hmm.
consistently, right? The simple
Yeah.
things consistently, brick by brick. And whether, again, that's from a business standpoint, financial standpoint, family standpoint, church standpoint,
Hmm.
it those simple things become habits. Those bricks become layers on top of each other, and then all of a sudden, obviously, you have something that you've been building, and you can
Hmm.
start seeing the shape and the outcome of that one step at a time.
Have you noticed, and that's such a good point, but have you noticed in your kids that brick by brick mentality? Do you feel like that's instilled confidence into them? I know they're young, but it's crazy the confidence you can see in kids. Like
Yeah,
how have you guys worked that in with them?
no doubt. I mean, we have some simple things in the household. For example, I kept telling our oldest Penelope, she loves sports, man. She
Yeah.
loves every single sport. But as an example, right now, she's still catching up in her skill set, right? Like
Okay.
she's
Yep.
still,
Yep.
she's still catching up, but her mentality's there. But the things that we've instilled in them is just, in essence, I would say more value driven, right? Because right
Okay.
now they have to learn maybe that brick for them is not a strong brick. Maybe it's this mush thing that they're trying to put together and it's not perfect, right? So the enterprise that they're building or the habits that they're building is not going to be this beautiful structure right away.
Yep.
It's a little bit messy, right? Because it's not a
Yep.
perfect overall layer. So a lot of what we try to focus on is just values, right?
Hmm.
And even simple things, right? As an example, like I remember wrestling with the kids since they've been a year and a half, two, three, and not letting them win unless like they really like gave a big old effort. I mean, like, and then little by little, right? Like you can't give up. Never give up, never give up, never give up, right? Fall down, get back up. Those things that you've heard it, everybody's heard it, right?
Hmm.
But it's just neat because at some point they've heard it enough times that it's truth, right? And
Yeah.
that they believe it. So, right now, while they're learning how to build those actual bricks, right, and making them clean cut brick layers that they can put one on top of another, they're starting to learn their value proposition for themselves, right? And what is it that they
Hmm.
believe in? What is it that they not believe in? How do you impact, for example, in sports, if you're not going to play as much, how can you be a leader off the field and on the field, even if you're not the one actually playing as much as an example? So those standard things, right, from a value perspective, I think is where it starts first, while they start shaping and molding those bricks to be able
Yeah.
to see those wins on top of another. And I do think it starts from that value proposition.
Yeah, I think that is a great way to go about it, especially with your kids. Was that something? So, like when you moved here, you were 12, right?
Yep. Yep.
Was that something that was important in your family? Because I mean, that's a huge shift for a 12. I mean, just imagine a 12-year-old,
Hmm.
like one of your kids, and moving them not only to like a new city,
Yeah.
but to a brand new country, and
Yeah.
saying, "Here you go, have your confidence, build a business." And like, could you have imagined 12-year-old you, like, could you have imagined, you now raising
No.
3 kids of your own and being like, I'm a dad, I got to take care of these things, right?
No, no, never. Not, because you're right. It's not only a different city or a different state. It's a different country.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't speak English. In Colombia, 75 to 85-degree year round. Wisconsin, obviously, we know it's not that, from a year
No.
round basis. So it was a completely different culture shift in that capacity.
Yeah.
So no, could have never seen that. But again, from that perspective, I know those are things that in essence gets instilled obviously from, and I just love it. I love generational knowledge, right?
Hmm.
I think it's probably one of the most underappreciated things nowadays is what our parents taught us and what they learned from their parents, and so on and so forth. So the knowledge, or tribal knowledge, I think sometimes people call it, right? That's all the generations of different values, and this is how we behave, and this is how we act, and this is what we do when we fall, in different categories. It happens, it happens in different ways. What was interesting with ours is, in Colombia, a lot of people and how they succeed, or I should say in a lot of third world countries, it's through education, right?
Okay.
It is doctor or attorney, as an example, right? That,
Hmm.
that's how you succeed, because there's not a lot of middle class, for lack of better terms, right? So there's not
Hmm.
40, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 jobs out there, as much as there is in the US.
Okay.
So from our parents' perspective, a lot of it was you succeed through education, which honestly, that wasn't me. I struggled in school. I think a big part of it, of course, was there was a language barrier at first. So I think that probably had a decent amount to do with it, plus culture and change and friends and
Hmm.
all the different things, right? A 12-year-old boy, you and I know what we go through, and what's
Yeah.
happening at 12 or 13. You're looking at the girls, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
there's so many things going on,
Yeah.
and then there's school, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
Dude, that's such a
girls,
terrible, that's such a hard age for that. My gosh.
right? Think about it, right? There's girls, there's sports, and then there's school, like, down here
Yeah.
at that age.
Yeah.
And then obviously we're trying
Oh,
to
no,
learn.
by the way, you don't speak English.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So,
Throw that on top.
exactly. So a big part of it, man, like, the never give up mentality from our parents, I think just came from, and I love this. Sometimes it is what it is, right? You
Hmm.
are where you are, and there's always just two perspectives, right? Either we stop or we keep going. There's no in between, and in my mentality, there's never been oh, well, it must be nice. Those words will never come out of my family's mouth ever. The
Yeah.
must be nice, or well, you have that just because you have this, or no, it's just, again, we are where we are, and once you embrace that category, and I think that's probably what my parents kind of really taught me is, once you embrace it, right, and the opportunity that's in essence here, because at the time I didn't know it, but yeah, in Colombia I would have spoken Spanish. I would have been with more family members and all these different things. But if I don't know what it would have been like in all reality, but my bet is, in this country with the opportunities that we have, what happened successful wise for our business probably would have not been the same there.
Hmm.
No, I just can't see it, right? So embracing the opportunity that's actually in front of you, the grind, the pain, the language barriers, all those different things. Um, that's part of it, right? No matter where you are, whether you're a 12-year-old boy that came from a different country or you grew up here, it, it's the journey, right? And either
Hmm.
you welcome that journey and the situation that you have, or you don't. There's no gray area for me in that capacity, and that's
Yeah.
really what we try to instill in our kids, right? Is it where we are, where you are is where you are, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's where you're gonna be, but it's
Hmm.
the opportunity of where you're at and dealing with the situation that you have that's going to really put you to the next level, whether it's in sports, whether that's with friends or school, or whatever way that they define success, as they get
Hmm.
older. So that's really a big part of it, is understanding that, from a victim mentality, that's not what our family's about, and we're going to move forward and create the situation to master whatever you're looking to do.
Yeah, that's such a great perspective. My mind just goes in a bunch of different areas with that, but I want to bring it back to like the values that you had as a kid was a grind mentality, never stop. And I always loved it. It reminded me because I think you're a UFC guy. I think you like watching
Yep.
some UFC fights.
Yep.
Dana White had or he was on an interview or something. And he was just looking at people and he's like, just doubt me,
Yeah.
try me, doubt me,
Yeah.
say I'm gonna fail. I love it. And it seems to me like that's kind of your mentality because it was like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just
Well,
sit there and not do anything?
yeah. Well, and I think it's twofold, man, because there's a mentality of the doubt me mentality, right?
Hmm.
And the part that I'm trying to figure out how to instill in our kids, because I don't know if it was just a
Yeah.
natural thing that I had or if it got passed down. I'm still trying to identify that with my wife, but I never cared. And I don't mean that as in like I never cared about things. I mean, I never cared about what the other person, whoever they may be in whatever situation, thought of me in that
Hmm.
moment, right? I was just such at peace with it. And that could be anything from, when you start getting offered drugs in middle school and high school or sports or whatever. I just didn't care.
Hmm.
Um, my overall values and who I thought I was so solidified that I could be anywhere and just feel comfortable in my own skin, right? So I think in that capacity, right, of we know where we're at, and the doubt is obviously something we're going to move past. But I'm just so incredibly comfortable in knowing I know who I am, right? My
Hmm.
identity is so solidified in myself, and not from a confidence, cocky way, from a
Hmm.
I'm okay if I'm alone, if I'm with you, if I'm this or if I'm that, if I'm here or there.
Hmm.
The story keeps moving, and maybe a lot of that has to do with moving. The fact that we did move, right? So if I'm there, if I'm here, like I am where I am, right? So,
Hmm.
and I think that factor, right? I mean, I can't imagine one of the many higher values that we want to give our kids, especially around those teenage years of
Yeah.
self confidence, not arrogance,
Hmm.
self confidence, right? And I think
Hmm.
that's so attractive from an individual basis to a business perspective. I think that's gone a lot into our business. I know I'm not the smartest individual out there, but I think the confidence that we have in the systems, the planning, the relationships that we have attract a lot of clients. I think
Hmm.
a lot of those things or attracted my wife, when we first started dating. Same thing. There's always somebody bigger, stronger, faster kind of thing in life. There's always
Hmm.
somebody, right? Better
Yep.
looking, smarter, richer, anything. There's always somebody more than that. But when you're comfortable in that department while still growing, because I think that's a big difference, right? You don't want to be comfortable and lazy, right? Not challenging yourself, but confident in who you are and innovating and still growing in your own path. I think that's really where the magic eventually happens for a lot of people, where they really find happiness, right? Because you and I both know a lot of people that have wonderful businesses, have a lot of money, but could be miserable,
Yeah.
right? And they're still trying to figure out, why am I feeling like this? And I think the difference, again, from that perspective to where we've been blessed to be is we know that the amount of money eventually, and don't get me wrong, we love having a successful business,
Hmm.
but we know, and I remember this clear as day when Vanessa and I first started the business together. We remember, once we can make 100,000, right, life will be good.
Hmm.
And then we did that, and the fulfillment didn't come. And then we said, once we make 200,000, and we did that, and then the fulfillment didn't come. Three and four and five and six and so on, and it never came. Interestingly enough,
Hmm.
right, from the money perspective. So at
Hmm.
some point, it's like, the definition of insanity, right?
Yep.
Doing the same thing, expecting different results. Well, if we were putting our overall happiness in the amount of money that we make versus the journey that we're actually on, and
Hmm.
enjoying it in the moment with each other, with our kids, with our friends, and always comparing ourselves to maybe a different person that's bigger, faster, stronger, it
Yep.
just takes everything away. So a big part of the hope for the kids is that they understand it, right? How to be confident in your perspective, and run your own race the best way possible and enjoy fulfillment in that process. Because, man, the second that it gets to a certain level, if you compare it, it'll take everything away from you. Right? It just will.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just will. Yeah.
Have there been times, and I'm sure there have been, and you may remember them where you did doubt and had that doubt of like, especially maybe when the kids were young or you were growing the business big, and like what were some ways that you were able to overcome that to the point, and I'm going to tie this in there too because I think this is the biggest one. You're dealing with the business side of things of
Yeah.
wanting to grow and then doubting yourself there and making sure that it doesn't fall over into the family with young kids and a spouse. How did you manage that?
You know, that's a great question. I think I'll speak more towards the marriage side of things. The reason I say that is by the time that we had our kids, from a successful business standpoint, we were there, right? So those grinding years of trying to figure out how to put food on the table for the family were before we had the kids, right? So I'll speak a little bit more maybe towards the beginning phase, because of course we all have struggles in it. I wish it was just from start to where we are now, a clean cut line. That definitely wasn't like that. But with that being said, you might have actually heard me say the story one time a bunch of years ago. So I still remember like it was yesterday. So my wife and I have been together since 2007 and 8. Married 10 years this year, but together since then. So when I started in the internship, doing financial plan internship as an entrepreneur within Northwestern, again, you're not salaried, and you know it. You're starting business from scratch, genuine business from scratch. And we started off hot. I mean, we came out of it and started producing right away, and that built confidence. And remember what I said before, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. That built confidence, but on top of that, I think it created another layer of arrogance. And not arrogance towards me and the way I was behaving towards other people, arrogance to myself. And what I like to call the man in the mirror, right? The person I was looking at, I think, was not doing as good as I thought it, as I actually thought, which created some arrogance, which again, when that happens, that's usually again a sign where maybe a little come to Jesus meeting needs to happen, right? So for me, it did happen, right? So the come to Jesus thing was, there was a span now of 6 months as we were trying to grow the business in which clients were not saying no as much as I was used to. Clients were either taking assets or being declined from becoming clients for different reasons and things like that. That's just probably too much to go into the podcast. But bottom line is the growth of the business not only stagnated, but started decreasing, right? Month after month after month after month. Now, nobody knew, right? To our colleagues and to other advisors, things like that, we were still obviously, they thought that we were just killing it still. Even though going home, I could barely afford our $250 rent at that time, right? It was me and 3 other guys. So my wife and I were married, yeah. So me and my 3 buddies rent, and it's $1,000 for our rent, $250. I couldn't afford it. So at some point, I got so broken down, and I hadn't told anybody about that. Excuse me, Jake. Give me 1 second here. That 50-degree weather today, man. It's got me parched.
It's cold up by you. It's 60 down here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So at some point, again, I had not shared this with anybody. I finally, in essence, broke down to Vanessa, who back then was not my fiance yet, just still my girlfriend. And she was just starting her job at Schreiber Foods. So after we talk about it, I think first off, I want to say she was frustrated that I hadn't told her earlier. I'm sure she probably was, but she didn't make me feel that way, right? She didn't make it about herself or about our relationship in that moment of why I didn't communicate. She made it more about the solution, right? We are where we are. It is what it is now. How do we move forward, right? Which, again, that tells me, and maybe a lot of these things, now I'm talking about it out loud, maybe a lot of them come from her, on helping me through that moment of we are where we are. How do we move forward? So she goes, do you need some money? And of course, pride said no, right? No, even though I know I can't pay for rent right now or any of those things. And she was just starting. So I said no, but she could tell, right? We've been dating now for a while. She could tell I meant yes, but no way in hell was I going to say yes, right? So then she goes, "Do you need $200?" And I don't say anything. I just kind of still keep looking down, and she goes up to 400, 500, 750, and I could hear her go like 1,000, almost like $1,000 when
Hmm.
you're first starting. For her as well, $1,000 at that time was a lot of money because she was
Yeah.
just starting, right? Um, and I kind of just like a sad little puppy go like, that's probably enough, right? They'll buy me enough time for rent and to get my ass in gear again. That was the moment, Jake, that we went from confident to we move forward, we don't give up no matter what, without the arrogance portion of it attached to our practice, right, and to
Hmm.
ourselves. And since that time frame, the practice truly, I don't want to say it was completely linear, but it's as close to it as it could be.
Yeah.
Um, and it was the second that I allowed other people, especially again the right person, in this case Vanessa, my wife now,
Hmm.
to be to be let into what's going on, to be able to be, and as my business, not only my spouse, my future spouse, my business partner, who we do this together, who I lean on for those situations. And to this day, I mean, anytime that we have any tough decisions to make with clients or staff, or do we take our business left or do we take it right,
Hmm.
she is the vice president of the firm, and every serious aspect of it. Um, and she's able to just distinguish things from a business and from a personal standpoint that I really value. So again, by the time the kids came, the business was now going. That of course the change was the time frame that we spent in the business once the kids came changed, right? And the
Okay.
dynamic on what we're doing there. But from
Yep.
a financial standpoint, it was that moment in time when Vanessa said, "I got your back." And again, I forgive me just because it makes me happy thinking of it. But I remember her saying, before I even said anything, "I know you'll pay me back, but I will never ask you. I will never ask you to." Right? Which relieved all this stress, all the anxiety, because
Hmm.
sometimes people give you a gift, but with strings attached, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that. It was genuinely, it was a loan, but it wasn't like that. It was, "I know you'll pay me back,
Hmm.
but I will never ask you to. Do your thing. Tomorrow, get back to work and get your ass out there, right? Go get
Hmm.
it done." And I think that kind of mentality, right? That in the moment of most weakness, the person that you just told that you're also, in essence, and not in essence, that you're in love with in that moment and that they love you, could look at you and go, "That doesn't change anything between us, right? Here or
Hmm.
here, that doesn't change it. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm riding with you." And that confidence obviously just instills a hell of a lot in you. Of I could look left now and know Vanessa's there with her shield and sword next to me.
Yep.
As we're facing whatever things we're going to face as a couple, as parents, and business owners.
Yeah. And I'm sure you revisit that thought quite often. I've never heard that story. I didn't hear that before, but I'm sure you replay that pretty often.
And we have fun with it too, right? We
Yeah.
replay it and then look at the nice house we just built, and she's like, "That was a good investment, the $1,000. I got my money's out of that." So we have fun with it as well, and now she's able to be at home with the kids, and again, and it's one of those things that we know, 1 + 1 = 5, right? And that's the way that we feel with each other. We're better, stronger than we are apart, and it's one of those special things when you just go, as a father, as a business owner, I'm better
Hmm.
because of you,
Yeah.
and I hope and I know she feels the same way. That she's a better mother and a spouse
Hmm.
because she's married to me, and it's just a great kind of partnership there, that can only be tested through fire. As like a lot of marriages are, and that doesn't
Hmm.
mean you have to have a business for that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the great
There's a
marriages
lot
are
of it.
tested through fire, and being a parent is tested through fire. Like that's just the way
Hmm.
it is. And the beautiful things, right? Fires allows you to mold things, right?
Yep.
Kind of like kids are doing right now, right? It's not a full
Yep.
clean brick, but as they do it, they mold it into exactly what they need to do to build upon it.
Hmm. I don't know if you've I don't know if you found this, but for Julie and I heard someone say this on a podcast, and I started to see this pattern in our lives. Every time we declare that we're going to be doing something big, like
Hmm.
some big change, or we have some big epiphany, and we talk about it together, things get worse, and then all of a sudden they shoot back up and they get better than where they were before. And I heard this guy on a podcast talk about that. Where when you declare your goals and your big aspirations out to God and the universe, the devil will throw little things in your way to test you, and like you said, put you through the fire. And that could be, I mean, just little things
Hmm.
too. I mean, it doesn't have to be like big crazy things, but it's like a car won't start.
Yeah.
Like, oh come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Hmm.
But I found that the communication, and as long as, like you said, that shield and sword for each other, right? You're there to protect her just as much as she's there to protect you. As long as you guys are side by side, there's nothing that can really take you down. Once you've already
Hmm.
set your mind to, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. We know there's going to be these challenges. We expect them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No, for sure. And you know it, man. No marriage is perfect. Sometimes you don't realize you're fighting each other, right? Instead of fighting the common, thing you're going, and you fight each other, and then a few minutes later you go, whoa, what are we doing here, right? What's
yeah,
going on, right?
yeah,
And you reset. So and but again, that's part of the journey and the values that you have as a family and in our life, and I know in you and Julie's life, right? Having faith as well,
hmm,
and understanding that you're not in your marriage by yourself, right? There's God in it
yep,
as well, and you have, ideally a great community between parents and friends. But it reminds me, that you said on another individual that the podcast. But I was praying a few days ago. My patience level is pretty low. Even though I'm not a screamer or a yeller, I don't think most people would assume that. But my patience level is, come on, now, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I was praying praying to Jesus and saying, hey, I need more patience, right? And I was
hmm,
praying for patience, and the kids were crazy when I got home from work, and my patience, of course, just nothing. Like, it was,
hmm,
nope, everybody get in line. Dad's home. I don't have the patience for this right now. And then about 5 minutes later, it reminded me of, I pray for patience. So then God put me in a position where my patience would be tested, right?
yep,
And it was like immediately it just hit me across the face. I'm like, you know what? This is exactly what I prayed for, right? To be
yep,
able to test it and work on it. And
hmm,
uh, I mean, what an opportunity, right? To be a parent. What an
yeah,
unbelievable thing and responsibility and gift. I
yep,
can't think of anything greater than that. Anything.
yeah. It's pretty awesome. It is. It's a very special thing. You kind of, at least for me, I do get that panic and be like, I've got to raise this kid to be a good member of society that brings value to people and
Yeah.
is a net positive for society, not a net detractor.
Yeah.
It's like that's a decent amount of responsibility. And then with, I'm interested to hear what you guys do of the business and stress of the next thing, whatever you're working on, and leaving that behind at work so that
Hmm.
you can really work on the family and not have business on your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll
How do
say
you
this:
handle that?
as much as we try, sometimes and no matter how many bricks and how much mortar you got, sometimes water still gets through, right?
Mhm.
And I think being able to, I don't want to say forgive yourself, but not be so hard on yourself. I think sometimes we're so intent on going nine rounds with ourselves, right? Whenever something doesn't go right that we know we should have done better. So I think we forgive ourselves pretty. I don't want to say easily, but meaning we're not terribly difficult on ourselves. Just
Mhm.
knowing that perfection is not going to be a thing. We strive to be a great version of it, of course, but perfection is not going to be a thing. And sometimes water will leak, and when that does, it's okay to say it's okay, right? From that
Mhm.
perspective, right? From the kids thing, man, it's interesting because you're 100% correct. I want you to be a great member of society. Sometimes what we do is go too far and create our own definition of what I want you to be,
Mm,
right?
yep.
Right? And that's difficult, right? Because I think from a again going back to the values, it's almost like here's the values that we're trying to install in you, but we can't. We have to, and it's so hard. Should you remove yourself from the outcome? I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm searching on that, right?
Hmm.
Because the when you remove yourself from the outcome, you start realizing you're not in control,
Hmm.
right? And I think that can sometimes be a healthy thing, right? It can be a healthy thing. That's why a lot of champions in sports, and I know again you're a fan of sports as well. A lot of them, of course, everybody wants to win the Super Bowl. The reason why some athletes can sleep very well at night, even if they don't win a Super Bowl, is because they know they gave everything they had to the sport,
Hmm.
right? They know that. And it's the same way I think sometimes with parenting is when we're given it all to be the best version of a father or mother, knowing we're going to fail, right? Because God knows that I do fail on that tremendously. Can I sleep better at night? Again, we'll see what happens long term. I obviously, same as you, man. I hope our kids are wonderful members of society. They have a great job or business and marriage and kids,
Hmm.
but it's an imperfect world, right? I
Yeah.
know that. But can I sleep well at night knowing that A, we're giving our kids the best support possible that we see right as our family values are, and B, just like Vanessa did with me eventually, when our kids inevitably fall, are we going to be there behind them as well? And the answer is yes to both of those, right? So
Hmm.
then the outcome, I can start releasing that outcome a little bit more,
Yeah.
right? And letting go of what will happen or what won't happen, and try to be in control of the exact destination, because that's going to drive me insane. I attribute that almost to the same as comparison,
Mm.
right? Comparison and controlling the absolute outcome at the end for an uncontrollable thing, right? If my kid wants to drive left or right, eventually I won't be able to be there for and do that, right?
Hmm.
But if we can do the values, the growth, and the support that again that allows us to at least be able to release a little bit of the outcome to
Yeah.
enjoy the moment, right? To enjoy the moment with them. So again, I'm still struggling with those thoughts because I'm with you, man. It's about like, you know, where we want to be and the
Yeah.
structure and everything like that. But we're not in control. We're not in
Yeah.
control of again of whatever that final thing is. But we can definitely shape it,
Yep.
right? We can definitely be there when it breaks. Not if, but when. Like we all,
Yep.
we've all broken down and we've all gone through our things, and we can be there. We can give you values.
Hmm.
Right now, we can parent as much as we possibly can to guide you in the right direction. But can I control what you're eventually going to do when you're 16 years old on a Friday night at 9 p.m.?
Yeah.
Or midnight, I should say. Probably not.
Hmm.
Not in that moment.
Yeah.
But what I can do again is everything else around it to allow you children to make the best decision possible for yourselves at that point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Prep them enough with the tools to make the right decisions based on their values that you guys have instilled in your household.
no doubt. And a big part of it for our household from values is, and I don't know if this is a value, but maybe more of a whatever we want to call it, is
Yeah.
there's consequences, right? There's consequences to actions, both good and bad, right? I mean, to from everything from working out to eating healthy to how you behave at school to how you talk to your mother if you're having a bad day at school and you come home and if you disrespect mom, there's consequences. All those different things, right? And I know some parents are tougher than other parents and looser than other parents, all these different things. But in our household, absolutely. There are consequences. And it's funny, again, the brick by brick, they start seeing that and they start knowing that, you know, hey, Luke, I'm just going to pick on my boy because I don't want to pick on my two girls right now. But because, again, he's just like me. But he starts seeing it, right? When he starts going the direction that he knows is too far, I don't even have to finish the whole sentence. Hey, Luca, there's going to be and he'll go, a consequence. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay. And he understands in that moment, like, okay, that there's, and again, you're older and you drink and drive. There's going to be a consequence. In those moments when mom and dad are not with you, there's consequences. And I think those are some values, again, from our perspective as business owners and as husbands and wives and parents, consequences are a real thing, and
Hmm.
helping them understand that they're accountable to their actions.
Yeah. Do you guys talk about And I kind of struggle with this with Julie every now and then, where I'll react to something with our guy, with our little guy, and then she's like, "Well, you didn't tell me that you were going to, tell him no TV for the night, like
Yeah.
whatever the case is." And I'm like, "All right, those are little things. I get it." But like, do you guys talk about the bigger, like the consequence that you talked about when the kids are like, "There's going to be consequences"? Are those something that you guys have set and talked about and had the conversation on?
Yeah, there is, and it's funny you say the TV for the rest of the night. The one thing my wife's called me out on consistently, because I am more of the rule maker. My wife's more soft in those areas. She's
Mhm.
more motherly, more more gentle, more
Yep.
again, more motherly. And I'm not a mom. I'm a dad, right? So
Hmm.
I I tend to, let's say on a Tuesday morning, if they're going crazy, I tend to say maybe they're off school, whatever, right? Right. I have to still go to work. My wife's again going to be at home right now with the kids. But sometimes what happens is, if they're crazy in the morning before I go to work, I go no TV all day now, and then my wife goes, "I'm out here. You can't do that." And then
Yeah.
I have to be the one that executes that when I'm here with them all day, right? So that's been a challenge, where from her point of view, she knows, hey, we got to be a little bit more strict. But
Yeah.
with me, I cannot be in essence shooting off the gun, knowing
Yeah.
somebody else is paying for, gonna be paying that price. In this case, Vanessa, of having to deal with that situation. And I think
Yeah.
a big part of it is communication, right? What are expectations there? But we've had a lot of talks, man, where we consistently talk about it, of understanding our roles as a family and our strengths and our
Mhm.
weaknesses. And it's not something that happened by accident. Like, we've stumbled through it, right? And situations arise where we don't handle it well. And then after we mess that situation up, we sit down and we go, okay, what happened? How do we execute that? Why did you do this? Why did I do this? And then that way we can figure out again, in our household, how do we move that moving forward, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, no doubt. And again, I wish it wasn't, but the way that I've always learned in life is probably by making mistakes. I mean,
Mhm.
I got to at least say 90% of the things I've ever learned have probably been things that I've messed up,
Yeah.
right? And I wish it wasn't so, but as a dad and as a husband, it's probably the same way, man. Uh,
Mhm.
Situations that I've done as a father that I go, don't, that's on me. I messed that one up. How do I fix that, right?
Mhm.
And again, it's just like what the kids are right now. We're as new fathers as they are kids,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yep.
both in the same time frame, right? Like,
Mhm.
literally same time
Yep.
frame. So remember before when we talked about business, right? Like the brick after brick, and I talked about how the kids right now don't have the clean brick they're molding it. Well, so are we, right, as parents. So again, but being able to be easy on yourself in those moments after you mess up, because you can hang on to that guilt and it can eat you.
Yeah.
And you can feel horrible with it and all these different things, but you have to be able to turn the page and go, that happened. How do I fix this? How do we
Mhm.
get better? Whether it's a couple thing, whether it was my wife that did it or me.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're anything like me, you probably made a mistake, and that's where the paperwork
Yeah.
came
And that's where I feel like that's where being a confident man is
from. No
different
doubt.
than being an arrogant man,
No
right?
doubt.
You're confident enough to say, "Yeah, that was on me. I
Yeah.
messed that up. Let's,
Yep.
I need to do some self-reflecting. I need to do some changing." Where an arrogant man would
Hmm.
act completely different. And
No doubt about
unfortunately,
it.
I think those two get used too closely to each other.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
I
oh,
think.
you're arrogant,
Yeah.
confidence, cocky, and it's like, no, I'm
Yeah.
confidence is totally different.
No
I'm
doubt. No
confident
doubt.
enough in my own ability in my own life to say, "Yep, messed it up."
Yeah.
Like,
And there's nothing with being, the knight in shining armor for your family.
mhm.
I love being that for our family. I love being the leader of our kids, and I love that my wife, allows us to lead our family. It is something I absolutely adore.
Mhm.
But with that comes the responsibility of being able to understand and look. Before I said it, the man in the mirror, and I don't know if you've ever done the man in the mirror exercise. I think it's phenomenal.
Mhm.
But in order for you to be the leader, it also comes with the responsibility of understanding when things break down. you're the first one that needs to look in the mirror and go, where where did I, and not necessarily messed up, where did I fall short? Maybe it's better said.
Mhm.
Where did I fall short? And then the responsibility at that point, not to soak in it, but the responsibility of saying, now how do I fix that? Dwelling in the mistakes, man, if we did that, we'd be drowning. And I know, at least for me, I'd be drowning if, and if I dwelled in those mistakes, I'd have anxiety, I'd be depressed, everything that I think a lot of society is going through right now. And I think it's because you keep dwelling on the things that we messed up on as imperfect beings,
Mhm.
versus knowing we did, analyzing it, forgiving ourselves, and now taking the next step forward on how do I fix this, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, have you done the man in the mirror?
I haven't. No, I've heard of it. I don't. Can you walk? Is it something you can walk us through? Like, just give us
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
an idea
Yes,
what it
it's
is.
relatively pretty easy. And then man, woman in the mirror,
Yeah,
same thing.
person in the mirror. Yeah,
My
whatever.
mentor Stuart Brink, when I first started in business, he taught it to me, and I thought it was great. As I was going through through the struggles. So, tonight, or whoever listens to this episode, or JQ, whenever you get some time, when you go tonight, before your bedtime, during your bedtime routine, before
Mhm.
bed, go in the mirror, clean your bathroom up, right? So it's not messy, things like that, and there's no beard hairs, on the sink, anything like that. Like, it's clean cut, so there's nothing distracting, right? For a few minutes, kids are sleeping, Julie's in bed, whatever. This is just you and you.
Yep.
In that moment, what I would want you to do is take probably 1 minute of breathing exercises, right? Just deep, be able to feel your toes, your head, everything, be self aware of where you're at. And then what I want you to do is then to just get close to the mirror, to a good distance, open your eyes, and just stare, not at your nose, or your anything, stare right into your eyes. Okay? It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, especially if you're coming off of something that's been difficult for you, because what's gonna most likely happen is you're gonna start seeing the biggest flaws that you have. And I don't mean physical flaws, right?
Yep.
I'm not talking about physical. I'm talking about the flaws that either you yourself only know, or the flaws of what you did, or where you've come up short as a husband, or as a father, or as a business owner, as a person of faith,
Hmm.
is tough. It is a tough exercise, especially again if things aren't going the best for you right now. But what it allows you to do is it allows you to see those things and
Hmm.
face what's going on. And if you do it long enough in that process, it allows you to start forgiving yourself, right? It allows you to start going, almost like there you are, like, hey, where are you,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
It's an unbelievable exercise that, again, I would say to anybody that's going through something. But again, breathing, I'm here, I'm staring at myself, and you just let your mind do its thing.
Hmm.
Let your mind do its thing.
Yeah. That trying to keep the mind focused for that line. I practice meditation quite a bit, and I do that, but I've never stared at myself in the mirror
Yeah,
because I feel like you're just like staring into your soul
you are. That's exactly what
and
happened.
being like, I'm coming for you.
Yeah,
We're gonna
yep,
we're gonna we're gonna dive in there. And I think
yep.
I would imagine that there are a lot of guys out there that would be fearful of doing that, and they won't admit that they're fearful of doing it, but they don't want to know what they're going to see,
The
or they
first
don't
time
want
I
to
did it, I
face what
think
they're going to see.
I only lasted about maybe 10 seconds the first time that I did that exercise.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's a bad.
Oh no, I looked and I'm like, nope, 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 nope. I had to eventually do it again. It's tough
Yeah,
again, especially, we never know what's going on in people's lives.
I
And even if
know.
something's going well, right? Good business, everything. You and I know, man, sometimes in the shadows or when nobody's looking, we're going through our own things.
Hmm.
Or you're doing something, right? And that you maybe not the most proud of in that moment, whatever that may be. Like that
Hmm.
we're imperfect humans, imperfect husbands, imperfect business owners, imperfect fathers. Like that's just the way it is. But when you start looking at yourself, and again, it's not, you don't want to be far enough where, with your shirt off as an example, you start going, oh, I should probably work out a little bit more. No, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not physical exercise. It's a
Yep.
soul searching exercise that is well worth it to see and look into yourself. And again,
Yeah.
not letting yourself off the hook and going, I'm coming for you. I'm gonna. bring out everything that I know is out there. I'm going to bring it to the light, and you're going to see
Hmm.
it, and you're going to feel it, and then we're going to forgive it, and then we're going to move past it and move forward and become a better version of ourselves.
I
Right?
love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's going to be. I hope people do that. I'll do that for sure.
Yeah. Good.
I'm surprised it's the
I
first time I heard that,
yeah.
but I'm. That's going to be a great exercise.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad. I expect a text after you do it.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But well, that's good. You shared a lot of awesome stuff. This is really good. Um, I always want to kind of end on one final question, obviously. But what does being a father figure mean to you? Like if
Yeah.
you could wrap it up in a couple of minutes. Like what does a father figure mean to you?
I remember Vanessa, and again, it's just we're just blessed to be able to parent together, right? As mother and
Mhm.
father and as spouses. And I remember her especially talking about again for the girls and Luca in different capacities, but saying, David, be the man that that you want your son to be,
Mhm.
right? And be the man that you want your daughters to to eventually look up to,
Mhm.
from a spousal standpoint, right?
Yep.
And when that high standard gets set of be the man that or be the man that your children believe you are, right?
Mhm.
Because you know the way they look at you when they're young is like you're a hero, right?
Yeah.
You're a hero. That standard, I mean, and that feeling of like, man, I would do anything for you, right? In that
Mhm.
moment, I think that just speaks the most to me. But be the man that your children believe you are. I think that's such a high. It's a calling, right? It is an
Mhm.
absolute calling. It means the world. It is gut wrenching. It's exciting. It is frustrating, right? It's everything combined in one. And I think anybody that's been blessed to be a parent, especially with supporting family members around it, is going to absolutely say there's nothing I would trade this for the world.
Yeah.
Nothing about it, right? Nothing's been as fulfilling. No amount of money that, at least so far, that we made has been as
Yeah.
fulfilling as being able to be with the kids and be their hero. None,
No. Nope.
right? And how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
How cool is that? So, yeah, be the man that your children already believe you are.
I love that. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap this up. It was great having you on, and maybe we'll have to bring you on for an encore because I'm sure there's more we could dive into down the road. But I think this was awesome. We'll cut it off here, and
Perfect.
everyone enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully you guys learned something from David.
Love it. Jake, you're the man. Talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, you too. See ya.
Bye, buddy. Bye.